Philippians 4, verses 14 through 20. So if you guys could read along with me as I read. It starts, Paul writes, "Yet it was kind of you to share my trouble. And you, Philippians, yourselves know that in the beginning of the gospel, when I left Macedonia, no church entered into partnership with me in giving and receiving, except you only. Even in Thessalonica, you sent me help for my needs once and again. Not that I seek the gift, but I seek the fruit that increases to your credit. I have received full payment and more. I am well supplied, having received from Epaphroditus the gifts you sent, a fragrant offering, a sacrifice acceptable and pleasing to God. And my God will supply every need of yours, according to his riches in glory in Christ Jesus. To our God and Father be glory forever and ever. Amen." Let's pray. Heavenly Father, God, we come to you in your word in the end of this letter, and I ask that you, as you have been doing, that you would teach us through it, Lord, that you would convict our hearts, that through your good word we would understand the gift that is the gospel and how we can give it to others freely, and how we can give it without fear of not having enough or fear of giving too much, Lord. I just pray that in your name. Amen. So, there's this thought that many people carry with them that prevents them from accepting gifts or accepting kindness from other people. And if I was to sum up this thought in sort of like one sentence, it would go something like this: I don't need that. You know? I don't need that. I don't want your gift. Okay, but the heart of giving, believe it or not, is not rooted in someone's need. It is about wanting to be kind. It's about wanting to share our blessings with others. Again, I kind of want to give you this, it's kind of a silly example that I experienced a lot in my home. So when I grew up, my dad was like constantly opening doors for people, constantly opening doors for us. When we were going to the car, he would go to the passenger side door first, open it up, and let my mom in, or let me in, or one of my brothers. Then he'd close it, and then he would go to his door and get in on his side. When we would drive to places as a family, we'd park, and I would watch my dad get out of the car, walk in front of it, go around to my mom's door, open the door and let her out, and then the rest of us would get out as well. And as a young man, I would think to myself, wow, that's so nice, right? I loved seeing my dad do this. It was such a kind thing for my dad to do for us. It was simple, but it was kind. And so I started to do that. I would go out of my way. I still go out of my way to open doors for people. And a lot of people say thank you. And then when I got to college and I started dating, I wanted to emulate the way that my dad loved my mom by opening doors for the person I was dating. But when I tried this, I got a little bit more pushback from the person that I was dating. And I remember there was this one time when a girl said to me, "I don't need your help. I can open my own door." And I was so shocked and confused. And in my head, I was like your ability to open the door has nothing to do with it. I didn't understand. And to be honest, I didn't understand that I was making her feel weak. Because in her mind, right, why else would I open the door for her other than because I thought that she needed a big, strong man to open that big, heavy door for her, right? And I also wasn't really wise enough to be able to explain to her in the moment that I wasn't opening the door because I thought she needed my help, but because it's kind. It's a kind thing to do. And because I was so blessed by having my dad do this for me and watching him do this for my mom, I wanted to do that for others. You guys, in today's passage, Paul is thanking the Philippian church for their gift to him. But not because he needs it. He's thanking them for their kindness. Their kindness in blessing Paul with what God has blessed them with. See, through today's passage, Paul is pushing against this idea that we have that to give and receive is based on need. But he is instead saying that gospel giving isn't based on need. It's based on what we have been given. And this probably is good news for you guys. Because I would imagine that at your age, it sometimes feels pointless to give. Because let's be honest, there is probably someone richer, older, or better than you who can serve the needs of others or the needs of the church more effectively than you can. Because you guys are young, right? So I'll give you a few examples. You guys probably don't have that much money. So why should you tithe? Why should you give to the church? It's not like it's going to make a difference in the church's budget anyway. Or here's another one. You guys don't have that much wisdom, right? Like you haven't lived that much life. So why should you give your time to teach in children's church? I mean, the adults are going to do most of the teaching anyway. I know that many of you guys don't pray very often with other people. And it's embarrassing, right? To pray in front of other people. Besides, the youth leaders are better at praying and knowing what to say. Why would you give your bad prayers to others when someone else can do it better? This is how we think sometimes, isn't it? Maybe sometimes you think to yourself, no one really needs you to give your money, wisdom, or prayers to them. Maybe you think that the church doesn't need you to give or serve, which is true, but it's also not true, right? And more to the point, it's not at all why we give our money, time, prayers, wisdom, and work to others and to the church. Because I would argue that for the Christian, we don't primarily give because someone needs us to, but because we are kind and because we can. As people who believe in the gospel, we give because of what was given to us through the gospel. And one thing that we are given through the gospel is kindness. We give according to our kindness. In verses 14 through 18, as Paul talks about how kind the Philippians have been to him by giving to him while he was in jail through Epaphroditus. We read this in the beginning of this book. But they didn't just give to Paul when he was in prison. In fact, they also gave to him when he left Macedonia. When he left Macedonia and no one else was giving to him at that time. They also gave to him while he was in Thessalonica. The Philippian church has given to Paul many times. And Paul, throughout this letter, has been gushing about how super thankful he is for their gifts. And the joy that he has in receiving their gifts of support is probably overwhelming. Or at least it seems like it is based on what he writes in this book. But if we look specifically at verse 18, we see that Paul isn't thankful because he needs the gifts themselves. In fact, he says he has received full payment and more. He is well supplied. In verse 17, he's like, I didn't seek the gift, but I seek the fruit that increases your credit. At the end of 18, he refers to the gift as a fragrant offering, a sacrifice acceptable and pleasing to God. Paul is like, I didn't ask for the gift, I didn't need the gift, and the gift isn't really for me, but is actually an offering to God. And yet, at the same time, Paul keeps thanking the Philippians for their gifts. So why is Paul continuously thanking the Philippians for their gifts if he doesn't need them? Well, look at verse 14. It's because of their kindness. You see, their kindness is the gift. Because their kindness toward him is proof of their love for him. And their love for him is proof of God's love for him. See, their God-given kindness is the fruit in verse 17 that Paul says he is seeking. And Paul is overwhelmed with joy because he is loved deeply by God through the kindness of the Philippians. So, I don't know how many of you guys have been in my office before. If you have, you'll see a bunch of stuff in it. So I have a bunch of different things. I have swords on the walls. I have a scroll painting. I know it's cool. I have a table runner nailed to the wall. I have pictures of my family. I have a Take Courage sign. I have doodles, paintings, 4 coffee mugs, stickers, a mason jar, and a rock with my name on it. And if you've ever wondered why I have these things in my office, why do I have a table runner nailed to my wall? Why do I have swords? Why do I have 4 coffee mugs when I only ever drink out of one of them? Why do I have a lot of random drawings, doodles, paintings, and art things? If you're ever wondering why I have all this stuff, I'll tell you right now. Every single one of those things was given to me by a person who is being kind. And that kind gift is proof of God loving me through that person, which makes that gift precious to me. You see, I don't need any of it, right? None of those things provide for my needs, but they are precious to me because of the kindness of the person who gave the gift. Right? That's what we misunderstand about giving gifts. The value and quality of a gift is insignificant compared to the kindness in giving the gift. You see, gifts don't need to be extravagant, you know? Sometimes they can be the simple kindness of thinking of a person and then thinking to give them something that they might like. Sometimes it's the simple kindness of seeing someone and asking if they want the doodle that you drew earlier that day. Gosh, that's a hard sentence. Right? Sometimes it can be the very simple kindness of sitting next to someone who's sitting by themselves. Or simply praying with the person who's hurting because they need God. And what seems like a small thing to us can mean the world to a person who receives it. Now, maybe you're sitting here right now, and as I'm talking about kindness, you're thinking to yourself, but David, I'm not a kind person. How do I give things out of the kindness of my heart if there is no kindness in my heart? And I'm going to be honest with you, okay? I'm going to be really honest. You're probably right. From birth, none of you, right? Not me, myself included, none of us are naturally kind. right? We're selfish. We're greedy, unkind people. Spend time with a baby. You'll see. But God is kind, right? It was God's kindness that compelled him to look at us while we were in sin and decide to give us our Son to save us instead of condemning us. Give us his Son to save us instead of condemning us. Guys, it was the kindness of Jesus that compelled him to give his life to forgive you of the sin that made his crucifixion necessary. And here's the cool part, it is the kindness that we experience from having God's Holy Spirit in us that over time compels us to be kind like him. Right? That's why our kindness is not simply proof of our love for that person, but it's proof of God's love for that person. You guys, it's true. In your heart, you are not naturally kind. Sorry. But here's the good news, okay? Kindness is not precious because you are kind. Kindness is precious because you are not kind. And yet, miraculously, through the working of the Holy Spirit, according to the gospel, Christ gave you his heart so that he can prove his love for us through you. You guys, we give according to our kindness, which was given to us through the gospel work of Jesus. We also give according to our riches, which are given to us for the gospel work of Jesus. All right, in verses 19 and 20, this is what Paul writes. This is effectively the end of his letter. He says, "And my God will supply every need of yours, according to his riches in glory in Christ Jesus. To our God and Father be glory forever and ever. Amen." All right. So there is so much to unpack in these two verses. So for your sake and for the sake of time, I'm going to try and focus on two very specific things that we can find in these verses. Okay, and I'm going to explain them through questions. So first, what does God supply? All right, and I'll tell you, the very simple, obvious answer, which is that God supplies for our every need. Okay, so what does God supply? God supplies for our every need. But here's where it gets kind of complicated. What do we need? And the answer is that it depends. I'm sorry. I can't give you a more specific answer because I'm not God, right? I don't know exactly what anyone needs. I can, however, tell you this. Whatever your needs are, God will provide for them. That's the promise. God will supply every need of yours. And this isn't a command from God. This isn't a request of God. This is a statement about God, which means that it doesn't depend on anything you do or ask for. It depends on who God is. See, God will provide for every need of his children because that's who he is. If you are good or bad, if you ask for it or if you don't, if you know what you need or if you have no idea what you need, God will provide it because that's who he is. This, however, also means that if God doesn't provide it, then you don't need it. Or to say it another way, you needed to not have it. This can be a tough pill to swallow. And it takes a lot of faith in who God is, to trust that God will provide or not provide based on our needs and not our wants. And just as an aside, if you're thinking, but David, didn't you just explain that we shouldn't give based on needs? And the answer is yes, I did. And this is the reason why I'm saying that. God gives based on need, so we don't have to. It's stronger than that. We can't and shouldn't give based on need because we're not God. Right? You and I, we don't have the knowledge or wisdom to know what people need. And you and I, we certainly don't have the power to provide it. Right? So we give according to what God gives us to give. And say that one more time. We give according to what God gives us to give, which was firstly according to the kindness in our hearts. Okay, so that's the first thing, right? God gives to every need of his children. How does he give? Well, that's the second thing I want to focus on in these two verses. God gives according to his glorious riches in Christ Jesus. God incredibly gives to our need according to his riches, not out of his riches. Okay, and it might seem like there's a big difference between giving, that there's not a big difference between giving according to riches versus giving out of riches, but there's a subtle and hugely impactful difference between the two. And the easiest way to show you the difference is through an illustration, so I'm going to make something up to you. Let's pretend that you guys are at school tomorrow and you don't have enough money for lunch, okay? You have a need. You need lunch money, right? And then let's pretend that there's just happens to be a billionaire visiting your school. And he sees you and sees that you have a need, that you need lunch money. And that billionaire comes up to you and he's like, hey kid, how about I buy your lunch for you? How much is it? And you tell him it's like $5. And so he hands you $5 out of his riches. He just provided for your need. It was kind of him. It provided for your need. You are very grateful. You say thanks, and he says, hey, no big deal, because it's not a big deal to him. And you happily eat your lunch until Friday, and you need lunch money again. Now, let's change it a little bit. We're going to change it. Same scenario, you need lunch money, okay? And then a billionaire happens to be visiting your school, and he sees that you have a need for lunch money. He says, hey kid, I have $1 million in my pocket. I'm going to give it all to you for lunches. And your lunches are paid for the rest of your life. This time, that person provided for your need according to his riches. See, it doesn't matter that your lunch was only $5. He had $1 million. And so according to what he has, he provided for your need. You guys, this isn't just kind. This is life-changing. God doesn't provide for your every need out of his riches. He provides every need according to his glorious riches in Christ. And God's glory is infinite. And so he provides for your needs infinitely. Right? But what does this actually mean? Okay, how do we see his provision? Where do we see his provision the most? Okay, well, if you've been here very long, you know where I'm going. I'm going to explain the most important application of God's provision according to his riches in Christ. You guys, you and I are all born with a need. We are born under the curse of sin. And because of the curse of sin, because of our hearts insatiable capacity for sin, we are born under and live in constant danger of the eternal condemnation of God's wrath. We need salvation from God's wrath. We need to be made righteous. In fact, Ephesians 2 describes our desperate need very clearly. But then it takes a major and wonderful turn toward hope in salvation through Christ. Okay, I'm going to read some of it for you. So Ephesians 2, 4 through 7, before it says this. It says, "You were by nature children of wrath." That is, we are all children destined to experience God's eternal wrath for sin. And this is the turn. "But God, being rich in mercy, because of the great love with which he loved us, even when we were dead in our trespasses, made us alive together with Christ. By grace you have been saved, and raised up with him, and seated us with him in the heavenly places in Christ Jesus, so that in the coming ages he might show the immeasurable riches of his grace and kindness toward us in Christ Jesus." You and I have sinned against God, and we need forgiveness. We need to be made righteous. But when Christ died on the cross, God didn't just forgive us. He didn't just make us righteous. He gave us Christ's righteousness. You see, if God provided for our need for righteousness out of his riches, he would make us righteous upon faith in Christ. But the second that you and I sin after we come to faith, we would be condemned again. Does that make sense? Making us righteous is like washing a dirty white shirt and making it white again. But it will get dirty again. Christ's work on the cross was so much bigger than making us righteous. God didn't provide out of his riches. He provided according to his riches in Christ. And Christ is infinitely righteous. Sin cannot stain Jesus. So when we put our faith in Christ, when we believe that Jesus died and rose again, when we ask God to save us from our sin, God doesn't make us righteous. He doesn't make us clean only so that we can get dirty again. God gives us Christ's righteousness. God raises us with Christ. God seats us with Christ. God provides for our need for righteousness according to his riches in Christ. And that means that once we have been given Christ's righteousness by faith through grace, sin cannot stain you again. Ever. This isn't just kind. It is life-changing. You guys, the gospel gift is the eternal righteousness of Jesus Christ. And gospel giving is simply giving because of and according to what we are given through the gospel. Right? This means giving according to the kindness we have been given in Christ. This means giving according to the riches we have been given in Christ. Now, to end here, I want to get really practical with you guys, okay? If you make $20 a month, tithe $2 a month. If you make $1 million a month, tithe $100,000 a month. If God has given you any amount of wisdom or understanding of Scripture, then give it to someone else. Like, I don't know, through children's church. Here at Jake as well. If God has laid it on your heart to pray for someone, then go and pray for them. Don't just say, I'll pray for you. Like, actually pray for them. If God has given you a gift in music, then gift us with your music. You can do this here in youth group. You can do it in church. Whatever it is, give it as a gift for the gospel. And here's the thing about God's economy, right? The size or quality of your gift is unimportant to God, as long as if you give it according to what He has given you. Right? You shouldn't give less than God gave you to give, and you shouldn't give more than God gave you to give. Give what God gives you to give. You and I shouldn't give according to the need, because God does that. But here's what's cool. Here's what's wonderful about our God. When we practice gospel giving, God is providing for the needs of the church. And through the church, providing for the needs of the world according to His riches. Because God's greatest treasure to give to the world, second to Christ, is you. Under Christ, you and I are God's provision for the needs of the world according to His glorious riches in Christ Jesus. To our God and Father be the glory forever and ever. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, God, I thank you and praise you so much for what you've given to us. God, I praise you that you are infinite, that out of your infinite glory you have given to us. According to your infinite glory you have given to us. God, that we are not just cleansed, we are not just forgiven, we are made righteous by your Son forever. And Lord, I pray that, like you have shown us in the gospel, that we can give according to the riches you have blessed us with. We don't feel like it's not enough, because everything you have given us is enough for us to give. And I pray that we don't feel like we need to give more because someone else gives more, because that is not how you designed it. God, I thank you and praise you. I praise you for this time, and just pray for our small groups and each person here. And pray that all in your name. Amen.